Okay, the Minister in the Presidency responsible for electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, is holding a press briefing on the implementation of the Energy Action Plan. Let's now take you live to that press briefing.
Your energy-intensive users will have taken a break, and therefore demand would have tapered down significantly. So we use this opportunity to do the actual work of ensuring that we are very aggressive in our maintenance program. So that we are able to take full advantage of the fact that the demand has slowed down. So just as a recap, so that there's a full appreciation of the Energy Action Plan and the performance against that Energy Action Plan, is that the Energy Action Plan really has got 5 outcomes. So the first outcome is about fixing Eskom, and by that we mean improving the energy availability factor, and by the energy availability factor, I really mean 2 variables. The first one is to ensure that the rate of failure of this units is attended to, so the units become more reliable. They stay on load and are able to generate the megawatts. The second one is to ensure that we improve the efficiency of these units. So even if when they are on load, we are able to ensure that the degree to which they are producing these megawatts approximate their design capacity, so that we are able to get the full benefit of these units. Because the units being on load is one issue, the units performing at the levels that they are desired is a second consideration. So those are the 2 aspects that we are dealing with. And of course, during this period, we have seen an exceptionally good performance by these units. So outside the issues of reduced demand, we have seen that what we call the unplanned capacity loss factor. So it's a combination of the units being unreliable and the units not performing at the right levels, and that's what we refer to as the partial load losses. So the unit is on load, the car is moving, but it's not attaining the maximum speed that is designed for, that is capable of achieving, that then undermines, if you like, the performance of these units. And what we have seen during this period of December is that the system has been healthy. Now, the problem we have is that the system is healthy in periods. So what we want to achieve is to ensure that we maintain that consistency, that the system remains healthy. And when we articulate around the energy outlook, and of course by extension talking to the issues of load shedding, our message is credible. So I want to focus on that first outcome, and then I'll go to the other outcomes in a methodical fashion, so that there's an appreciation of the work that we are doing. So on the issues around the performance of this unit. So if you look at the period from the week from the 11th of December and the week up to the 21st of December. So we are measuring, if you like, what we call capacity available. So capacity available simply means that this is what the units are generating, having taken into account the amount of failures and also the planned maintenance. The planned maintenance simply means that out of our own volition, we have taken out the units. We are going to fix them. So these units are not failing on their own. It's us taking them out to fix them. So once we have accounted for that, we have accounted for the partial load losses, then you are able to arrive at what we call the capacity available. So let me share with you what those key dimensions are. So the first one is on the unplanned capacity loss factor. Again, just to repeat myself, when I talk about the unplanned capacity loss factor, I'm talking about the unreliability of the units. I'm talking about the units not reaching, if you like, their optimal performance, their design capacity, what we refer to as the partial load losses. So the intention is to bring those down, so we undermine the rate of failure of these units. We are able to bolster the performance of these units, and therefore you are able to get more megawatts on the grid to service what is the demand. The higher the number, the greater the crisis that is facing us. So it simply means that the system is unhealthy. What are the numbers that we have been experiencing over the past 14 days? So essentially the average is about 12,245 megawatts. So it means that over that period there's 12,245 megawatts of units that have either failed or they are not giving us the amount of megawatts that we want, and therefore we're losing those 12,000 megawatts on the capacity available. But it's important that we are able to juxtapose this with what has been the trend, because a number can be a number, it must be relative to something. When you look at our winter outlook, when we did the projections, when we came and generated the scenarios, the worst case scenarios during our winter period was saying that this number, if it hits 18,000 megawatts plus, we're going to hit levels of load shedding that have not been seen before. I mean, going beyond stage 6. So that's what we had said. And then if you go to what has been the actual performance during that winter period, you're going to find that this number was averaging about 15,500 megawatts. So that's the actual, this is what the scenarios were projected. So now I'm standing before you and I'm saying that number is at 12,200 megawatts. So the system is better off, is healthier by about 3,000 megawatts. So that's the performance of the system, before I get to account on the issues on the demand side. So I think it's important that we have that appreciation. And it's particularly telling that on the 18th of December, for the first time in a long time, the amount of losses have gone below 11,000 megawatts. And thanks to Mr. Nxumalo and the exceptional team of engineers at the various power stations, they have illustrated to us that it is possible for us to come under 11,000 megawatts, although we didn't sustain it. And that's the point I'm making. The point is to sustain it. So you don't want to do that on just moments, but you want to be consistent in that. But this is a psychological barrier. We have gone below 11,000 megawatts. So we are confident about our ability to get to that level. So the point is to ensure that we are able to sustain it. So the message I'm conveying to the country is that the system is healthier. If you use that measure of the rate of failure and the partial load losses, which is an important dimension of the work that we are doing. And then the other area of interest is that it is important that during this period of low demand, that we are able to take this opportunity to ensure that we accelerate maintenance. So what has been our experience? Our experience is that when the units have gone out on planned maintenance, when they return on average, they continue to perform, they remain on load. So it simply means that the maintenance regime and the discipline that has been introduced by Mr. Nxumalo and the team is beginning to yield fruit. So we are going to benefit exceptionally well as a country for us to continue on this path of planned maintenance. But planned maintenance has got its own downside. So when you do planned maintenance, it simply means that I'm removing the units off the grid, so I'm lessening my ability to generate the megawatts. And that's why we have used a combination of what has been low demand and the healthy performance of these units during this period to do not only planned maintenance, but opportunity maintenance. I mean, just to give you a sense, I was at Duva Power Station last week. For the first time since I visited these power stations, and I'm very familiar with the power stations. You know, I've been to some power stations, I've been 4 times. The least I've been to a power station would have been 2 times. So I now fully understand, if you like, the intricacies, the engineering intricacies of how these units are performing. For the first time since I was appointed, when I was at Duva, the general manager at Duva received a message from the system controller to say that we have too much energy on the grid. Take out the unit and fix it. That's what we call opportunity maintenance. So they were planned to fix it sometime in the future. They know what the problem is that needs to be fixed in the future. the parts are available, they say take it out. I've never had such a situation where you say we have too much on the grid, remove and fix because of opportunity maintenance. And during that period, we're not burning diesel. So we're not sitting under the cover of diesel, but it's these machines that are performing. So the issue is about their sustenance. So what is our performance with regards to plant maintenance? Again, plant maintenance is averaging about 7,800 megawatts. Again, on the 18th of December, this plant maintenance was at 18,000 megawatts. So we took out of our own volution 8,000 megawatts during that period. Of course, some of it had been out for some period. So accumulatively, on the day, we reached about 18,100 megawatts. And part of that is about that opportunity maintenance I spoke about. Let me put that into context. A number is just a number so that you get to understand it. When we went through winter period and we did those scenarios, part of scenario generation was that to avert a worst case scenario, we need to reduce, tone down significantly on plant maintenance so that we get the benefit of sweating these assets. They must continue to produce the megawatts because demand was exceptionally high, and we reached about 33,900 megawatts. Plant maintenance at that period averaged about 2,500 megawatts. Today, plant maintenance is about 8,000 megawatts, or averaging 7,800 megawatts. So essentially, we have taken out an additional 5,300 megawatts to fix it. So it's important that there's that appreciation, that even if when we don't see load shedding, we don't celebrate ourselves, those are significant psychological victories. It simply means that it can be done. We want to sustain it, but we are using that opportunity for us to ensure that during difficult days, those days will come. These units must come back and continue to perform. So those are the two measures that are important. And having taken all of that into account, the unplanned capacity loss factor, we have removed 12,200 megawatts. And then you add this 7,800 megawatts, we have removed 20,000 megawatts, if you like, cumulatively. So the available generation capacity is sitting at 27,700 megawatts. And then the demand is averaging about 24,695 megawatts. And that's why you are not seeing load shedding. We are not seeing load shedding. We are working behind the scenes. We are aggressive on the maintenance. The system is performing. But the point I want to make is the consistency. Because time and time again, I come before the nation and I say there's been a cluster of units that have failed. That's something that we want to avert. And of course, I can't guarantee that that won't happen. I think it's important that I make that statement. But the outlook really, in the short term, when I say short term, between now and the next 2 weeks or so, looks upbeat. I mean, that's where we are. And really want to ensure that the lights remain on. But the truth has come the other side of the break. When the big industries are coming back, it's about sustaining the South African economy. So you can't celebrate the fact that you don't have load shedding when the South African economy has gone on, if you like, a temporary break. You want to have a situation of no load shedding at the height, at the peak of the performance of the South African economy. That's when you have a great appreciation of the work that we are doing. But every victory that we are registering, I think for us, it bolsters our work. It really makes sure that the mood is buoyant about our prospects to address this situation going into the future. And of course, we've done a computation around what has been the performance relative, the December performance of 2024 versus the December performance of 2023. And from no load shedding, I think the performance is much better. And then part of fixing ESCOM, and fixing ESCOM really means about ensuring that we improve the performance of these units. So you apply a degree of science. I mean, there's 14 of these power stations, over 80 of these generation units. So it will be a height of folly to suggest that you are going to fix all of them at the same time. So there has to be a method on how you are going to intervene and ensure that you are able to improve the performance in the shortest possible space of time. So what we then did was to identify what we call 6 power stations that gives us the best possibility of improving this generation performance, the aggregate generation performance. Those of you who have studied science, there's something we call the Pareto principle. So it's 20% effort, 80% return. So we asked ourselves a question, what are those power stations that in the short term can help us to recover? Of course, it doesn't mean that you neglect others, but if you are to make a meaningful impact on these 6 power stations, everyone in the country is going to see that we are lifting the performance, is going to bolster the aggregate performance of ESCOM, if you like, the entire fleet. So what are these power stations? Is Majuba. So we said, let's go to Majuba and make this intervention. And of course, we see that Majuba, over a period, we have been able to sustain that performance of the EAF is still at about 62% EAF. We really want to improve it. So that has been the work that is being invested there. And I want to emphasize that the kind of work that is being invested there, some of it takes a bit of time for us to be able to realize. And some of this planned maintenance is sitting in these power stations. That's why we have taken out the units. We want to fix them. That's what accounts for that 8,000 megawatts. And we are confident that when these units return, everyone is going to have a full appreciation of the work that we are doing. Because our work really is very easy to measure. It's the number of hours that your lights are either on and off. Then you know the performance of the system. You don't have to be an engineer to do that. And then the second one is Kusile. You know that Kusile, we only had about 1 unit performing, about unit number 4, because unit 1, 2, 3 were out as a result of the reasons that are well documented. I've explained to that ad nauseum. They had to do with the issues related to the flue gas desulfurization units, the fact that compromising the structural integrity of the chimney as a result of the slurry that was deposited there. And then we had to take out those units, So we lost the ability to generate, if you like, 2,400 megawatts, because each unit packs 800 megawatts. 8 times 3 is 2,400 megawatts. We didn't have that. And thanks to the work that the generation team has done, came with an ingenious solution, and of course we needed the approval of the authorities from an environmental point of view to bypass the original design, to do the temporary stacks so that we can retain these 2,400 megawatts. These 2,400 megawatts are now back, and that's why you can see that we have improved Kusile from what was about 15% EAF, and now we're sitting at about 70% EAF. Exceptional improvement, and that gets to be accounted for in the improvement that we're seeing. And of course, we are still on track towards the end of the year, early January, for us to be able to fire Unit 5 of Kusile. And that's kudos to the work that Mr. Ngumalo and the team has done. And then there's Duva. Duva was one of the shining lights during our winter period. I had visited Duva there, first to thank the management team, to thank the unions, to thank the men and women at Duva Power Station for making sure that this station performs. It was one of our best performing power stations during winter, and that's why we didn't see elevated levels of load shedding. And as Mr. Ngumalo was saying tongue-in-cheek the other day when we were talking to Lawrence, the general manager, I think we celebrated early, almost like dropped the ball, and you see that we have plummeted. It has come down from a high of what used to about 65%. It's at 46%. When I was there, they had picked it up to 54%. You remember here I'm reporting year to date. So it's important that they continue to lift this. They've identified what the issues were. They had lost 2 units. Those units are coming back. And then I think we're meant to return unit number 1 by the end of this month, ahead of the period. So I'm very happy of the work that Duva is doing to ensure that we are able to lift this. And And then the station that is exceptionally notorious for underperformance is Tutuga, and this is historical. It has to do with legacy issues. Like I say, when you drive this car, we are less interested on focusing our attention on the rear view mirror. We learn from what we had experienced in the past, but the focus is about the future. So you can see, I mean, out of the 6 units, at some point, only 1 unit performing. 1 unit has been out for a long period of time. We are taking a view of whether to retain it or not, but that's the head of generation makes that determination. And of course, at some point, we have retained about 3 of these units. And of course, we have tapered down in terms of our performance. And of course, what is accounted in that 8,000 megawatts, these units have been taken out for fixing. And at Tutuga, because of the exceptional circumstances of Tutuga, the head of generation at ESCOM, Mr. Numalo, has assigned one of the most decorated, experienced general managers, Bruce, to be able to run that effort together with his recovery team. They are there, if you like, in rugby terms, this is what you'll call the bomb squad. They go in there, make the kind of improvement that is required. Given the kind of complexities and the depth of the problem, is going to take them time. So Tutuga, once it comes back, I think the whole country will be able to have that appreciation that Tutuga is back, and we are able to ensure that we stave off the worst case scenario when we get to situation where demand will have spiked, and I'm talking about the next winter.
Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, the Minister of Electricity, giving us an update on the implementation of the energy action plan that has been government has come up with to deal with this issue around load shedding, as you heard there as well. That currently we stand at an average at around 7,800 megawatts of planned maintenance that gets taken out of the system, and then also speaking about the unplanned outages at around he says on the 18th of December rather, we went just below the 11,000 megawatts, which is something that the power utility has been struggling with.